This is what this whole thing is about. This has not been to show you the great knowledge that we have of the end times events. We can't even really understand what they will be like fully. But God has told us enough to let us know what is coming upon this world.
I pray that you will.
When I'm looking at the book of 2 Thessalonians, and you can look this up in your Bible, it talks about the rise of the Antichrist in the last days, of this great leader that's going to come upon the world scene. You see in verse 8 of 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, and then shall that wicked be revealed, speaking of this great leader, whom the Lord shall consume with the spirit of his mouth, and shall destroy with the brightness of his coming, even him whose coming is after the working of Satan, with all power and signs and lying wonders, and with all deceivableness of unrighteousness in them that perish, because they received not the love of the truth, that they might be saved. And for this cause God shall send them a strong delusion, that they should believe a lie. Let me continue. That they all might be damned who believed not the truth, but had pleasure in unrighteousness.
More well-rounded and people doing things kind of all over the place, but using electronics in their work. Today is going to be a little different in that I am talking to an expert, and this is because this is a coworker of mine, a former coworker at a job, and then a fellow consultant who I've worked with since, Eric Larson. And that's Eric Larson, the firmware engineer, not Eric Larson, the author. And we have worked together on interesting projects. Eric's specialty is firmware, and I usually am doing hardware, and that's the case with all the projects we've done together. I've been doing more firmware lately, and Eric has been a great reference for this. Eric is also a really wonderful reviewer of my work, and so today's episode is about using a coworker or using a friend or anyone else to go and review your work before you put it out into the world.
Reset. But the thing about microcontrollers is you can't write to the same place you're reading from, at least in Flash. The way Flash works is usually have to erase a huge chunk of it to be able to write any of it. And so you have to have your microcontroller memory either segmented either by your design or by using a separate ROM bootloader. So that's kind of the challenge as far as, you can't just hit an update button and reprogram itself.
Right. If there is an update button, someone has put it there, and it might have been you.
Yeah, all this is happening underneath the covers, and you don't see it. And hopefully it works, and hopefully you don't turn off the power in the middle, and it gets zapped. But
Today I'm going to be showing you how to go back to a previous version of Windows 10. So I had to do this recently because the newest update absolutely messed up all of my audio devices, my headphones, my audio interfaces, my microphones, and so I needed to go back to a previous version of Windows 10 that actually worked.
So I'm doing this video because nobody's told the truth yet. So I'm going to show you why we're not on Mars. We don't have rockets going up and landing like that. You can't. The engineers aren't that smart. You can't do that stuff. So anyway, basically what I'm going to show you is everything is a revision. If we have something on the moon or on Mars, they'd have to keep sending updates every day. They'd have to work on it all the time. They'd have to take it apart, fix. Yeah. They can't design something that fast just because they have a master's degree or a bachelor's degree or a doctorate degree. I mean, double doctorate degree. People are wrong about things all the time, and they argue back and forth. No, I'm right. No, I'm right. This theory is right. They're not that smart. So I'm going to stop and restart. It's only 1 minute intervals. Okay, so I'm just going to show you revisions for Windows 10. Most people are using Windows 10 or Windows 11. I doubt anybody's using Windows 7 anymore. I don't know how many revisions they have. But if you go to this page, it'll tell you the end of servicing is 2025. So most likely that means by 2025 we're going to have they already have a Windows 11 out. They must have one, and they have an end of servicing for it too. That means you have to upgrade because they're not going to have updates after that date on 2025. That just tells you they keep updating because they're wrong all the time. They make an error, they find a bug, they fix it. Someone reports a bug, they go fix it. They're not that smart. They're really not. I mean, they are very smart, but they can't make something that works forever without an update. I'll stop and restart. Okay, now before I try to say, like, I'm not smarter than them. No, I'm not. These people went to school for a lot of things. They did. They're very smart. I knew a lot of people that are very, very intelligent, but not every one of them. Not every one of them is top. They're from top. They're bottom. And a lot of people are in the middle. And they're a lot. They get a lot of people that are new, just coming out of college, retire. They have consultants. They call it consultants. Consultants come in and say, "Hey, this is what you're doing wrong. That's what you're doing wrong. You need to fix this. You need to fix that." But still, sometimes they have to go and talk to other people too. You can't remember everything. You can't. Anyway, I'm gonna stop and restart one last time on this. Okay, and the only reason I'm doing this is to show you Mars rocket is not real. The Mars rover, it's not real. Charles Brown was laughing about it. He was laughing about it. Anyway, here's your history of all your updates. Here, Windows release update history, right there. It just keeps updating. You gotta keep doing it all the time. It's 22 to 2023. It's possible they have stuff before them. I mean, it has all the histories right here. I don't know what all of them are. I just know that your computer updates when it tells it needs to update. Every revision has to update all the time. And then they find bugs in it and they have to fix it again. At Intel, we found bugs, had to fix it all the time. Stop and restart. Okay, now hardware design. When I was at Alcatel, and it's with it's everywhere. If you have a board that you don't know if it's going to work, they design it. They have a design review. Everybody talks. They get a meeting. They'll talk together. They say, well, you need to fix this. You need to fix that. They get all together. They build the board. It goes out. It doesn't work. So they have to troubleshoot it, and then they have to fix it. So they fix the part that they have. They do a bunch of wires, rework wires. They make the board work. They test it, make sure it's going to work, and then they do all the boards that way. And then they test all the boards, say, okay, these are working. Then they find the next bug. Then they fix it. Then they find out what's wrong with it. Then they do more wires. Then they fix it. When I worked for Bill Hopper at Alcatel, we had a board that had something like 60 wires on just one board. Just one board. Maybe it's 30 wires on one board. But what I worked on was, I'm going to stop and restart. Anyway, what I worked on was one board, was one module set, and it had 4 main boards, had a processor board, I think 2 processor boards on it. I mean, it's been a long time. It had 2 optical boards on it, and inside the optical, it had boards that somebody else designed, so they integrated all the stuff together. Everything had blue wires. I mean, blue wires where you find out something's connected to the wrong place, you run a wire, or something's disconnected, so you cut it. Sometimes you drill a hole into the board to disconnect something inside. I mean, engineers, they're really smart, but they're not going to design something that you see going up to Mars and stuff. I'm going to stop right here.
Clear line of sight is critical for long-distance microwave point-to-point link performance, so it is highly important to make sure no object interferes with the signal, as any unexpected performance issues may result in new expenses and necessary changes in network topology later on. Even if the remote site seems visible, radio line of sight may be affected by an object within the so-called Fresnel zone, an elliptical area immediately surrounding the visual link path, which varies in width depending on the link distance and the frequency channel. For example, if a hard object, such as a mountain ridge or building, is too close to the signal path, it can reduce the strength of the radio signal, and the planned received signal level will not be achieved.
Hello everyone, I'm very happy to see you again. Last lecture we learned microwave bandwidth. Today we will discuss the transmission distance of microwaves. How far can microwaves transmit? Is it 10 kilometers or 150 kilometers? This question is difficult to answer simply. Normally, the transmission distance of microwaves is anywhere between 1 kilometer to 100 kilometers, depending on the environment and the device, and detailed network planning is needed in order to accurately estimate the transmission distance.
So here's another slide, another example. So we have Jack and Jill. Jack's on the left-hand side, Jill's on the right-hand side, and they can't talk to each other because there's a mountain in the way. So you put a repeater in a good spot. And what happens is Jack transmits up on 146.100. It's received at the repeater on 146.100. The repeater routes that down to 146.700 and transmits that out to the received frequency on Jill's radio, which is 146.700, and you have communications.
What function do CDRs perform in retimers? The retimer uses its CDR to sense the input data and produce a periodic and synchronized clock. This clock, recovered from the data, is then used by a sampler decision circuit.
Well guys, let's start seeing what we have here. We have here an Arduino Nano microcontroller, an AVR 8 mega, generating a bit string where the bits are encoded in the level of the signal. And here in the oscilloscope, we can see the bit string being received. So if I pause the bit string here, we can see that we have the data here. We have level high signifying a bit 1, a 1 bit, and level low indicating a 0 bit. And we have the modulation in the amplitude of the signal indicating the bits of the message being transmitted. Here probably we have a 0, a 0, a 1, a 0, a 1, a 0, a 0, a 0. It's interesting because when we look at this bit string here, we have no idea what the transmitter is sending to the receiver side. And in this video we are thinking we are the receiver side. How we are going to decode the signal that's being received from the transmitter. How the receiver will decide when we have a new bit. This is the task of the clock recovery system that needs to recover the timing information, enabling the receiver to decode the bit stream exactly at the correct timing interval, exactly in the right places of new bits. This timing information is lost in the transmission of an NRZ signal. And of course guys, here we have a cable as the transmission media, but it could be a fiber optic. In a real scenario, this would be a very long transmission line made of copper or made of dielectric, like a fiber optic cable. We have two ways of understanding why it's difficult to recover the clock, the timing of the signal.